"You're not family anymore!" my sister yelled in front of everyone, and Mom nodded. I shrugged and left. Weeks later, they showed up begging when they learned I had. I remember the silence more than the shouting. The room had been buzzing just moments before, laughter, clinking glasses, stories repeated for the 100th time at another one of Mom's birthday dinners. Then it all stopped, like someone had yanked the cord on a record player mid-song. "You're not family anymore!" my sister, Rachel, screamed, eyes blazing with that brand of self-righteous fury only she could conjure. Everyone turned. Forks froze mid-air. Dad blinked once, like he wasn't sure if he'd misheard. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her. At the smirk beneath the tears, the practiced performance of it all. Rachel could cry on cue and accuse like it was an Olympic sport. She was always the center of the storm, and I'd spent most of my life building shelters around her tantrums. But then Mom spoke. "She's right," she said softly, not even looking at me. "Maybe it's better this way." That was the moment. The cut that actually bled. See, Rachel and I had always had tension. She was the loud, chaotic force that dominated every room, and I was the one who swept up after the damage. For years I believed it was just how family worked, some give more than they get. But when Mom nodded, when Dad didn't speak up, when no one stood between me and the guillotine, I understood something I hadn't before. This wasn't just a bad moment. This was who they were. And me? I had just sold my company 3 days ago. 8 figures wired into an account no one knew existed. So I shrugged. Literally. Just like that. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and left. No grand speech. No dramatic confrontation. I didn't owe them that. As I walked out into the cool evening air, I realized I didn't owe them anything at all. Looking back, the writing had been on the wall for years. You just don't see the cracks until you stop pretending the house isn't falling down. Rachel had always been Mom's favorite, no secret there. Even as kids, she could do no wrong. Break a vase? I'd get blamed. Lie about her grades? I was the bad influence, for not helping her study. When I got into Stanford on a scholarship, Mom said, "That's nice, but your sister's really creative, you know. She just doesn't test well." That was the rhythm of our family. Rachel fumbled, I caught the fall. And every time I quietly stepped back into place, believing one day it'd be different. That maybe if I just proved myself enough, earned enough, stayed calm enough, they'd see me. But they never saw me. And the worst part is, they never wanted to. Even after I started my company, they treated it like a hobby. "So you're still doing that little tech thing?" my dad asked, the last time I visited before everything fell apart. I had 5 employees by then. We had just landed our first 7-figure contract. And they still looked at me like the backup generator for Rachel's drama. She'd show up crying about another failed relationship, another job she quit because they didn't value her. And like clockwork, Mom would make tea, Dad would sigh like a saint, and I'd be the one cooking dinner while Rachel railed against the world. What finally set her off that night wasn't even interesting. It was a comment. I told her she couldn't keep using my name to sign up for things. Credit cards, car leases. She'd done it before, but now I was in a different league. I wasn't going to let her drag me down. "You think you're better than us?" she'd snapped. I didn't respond. I just told her to stop. Then came the explosion. Then Mom's nod. And then me walking out. The thing is, I didn't walk away empty-handed. They had no idea that the little tech thing had just been acquired by a major AI firm for $14.6 million. They had no idea I had 3 condos under renovation, a private advisor, and a lawyer who told me, "Disappear for a bit. Let them wonder." And that's exactly what I did. For the first time in my life, I didn't explain myself to anyone. I changed my number. Transferred everything to a private LLC. Moved into a temporary penthouse rental with floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the bay. Quiet, minimal, mine. I bought blackout curtains not because I needed them, but because I finally could. No one told me how to spend my money or questioned my choices. And I didn't tell a soul. No social media announcement. No flashy purchases that would make it back to Rachel through gossip. I wanted silence. Peace. The kind I'd never been afforded in that house full of noise. Weeks passed. I took long walks with no destination. Got a personal trainer. Learned how to cook properly this time, not just for a family that never thanked me. I invested in startups I actually believed in. Ones run by people like me, quiet, deliberate, overlooked. I met people who liked me without needing something from me. For once, every conversation didn't end with a favor, a loan, or a guilt trip about being too successful to help family. Because now, I had no family. At least, not the kind I'd grown up with. And that truth? It was bitter, yes, but also strangely liberating. Then, one afternoon, I got a text from Tyler. A high school friend I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey man. Rachel told my sister you moved into a fortress in the hills? What the hell did you do, rob a bank?" I stared at the message, blinking. So, word had finally gotten out. Some mutual acquaintance must have stumbled on my name in a news article or tech blog. And Rachel, being Rachel, would have pounced, spinning whatever narrative made her look like the betrayed sibling of the year. I knew what was coming next. I could already picture the fake apologies, the crocodile tears, the way Mom would tilt her head and say, "We were just worried about you." Sure enough, 2 days later, my gate buzzer lit up. And there they were. Mom and Rachel. Smiling like they hadn't exiled me with surgical precision. Like we were still playing house. They stood on the security cam, side by side, framed by the iron gate like a portrait of denial. Rachel wore oversized sunglasses and a glossy smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mom clutched her purse with both hands, blinking into the camera like she wasn't sure where to look. They looked small. I don't mean physically, just diminished. Like the world had been theirs for so long, and suddenly, someone moved the furniture. The buzzer crackled. Rachel's voice came through, fake sweet and polished. "Hey, it's us! We were just in the area and thought we'd stop by. We miss you." "Miss me?" I didn't reply. Just buzzed the gate open and watched as the security system clicked them in. I could have left them standing there. Could have ignored the whole thing. But no. This time, I wanted them to see everything. They walked up the stone steps, pausing like they needed to catch their breath. The doors swung open before they could knock. I stood there, in a navy button-down, clean-shaven, calm. Rachel blinked like she expected me to be angry. Or cold. Or broken. Instead, I stepped aside and gestured them in with a polite, "Come in." They hesitated. Mom finally broke the silence. You've done well for yourself." I gave a small nod. "I have." The foyer opened into a sunlit living space. Leather furniture. Art on the walls. No clutter. No chaos. Just silence and expensive flooring. Rachel's eyes flicked across the room, assessing. Calculating. "Wow," she said. "Is all this yours?" I smiled. "Yes." We sat. I didn't offer drinks. I didn't ask how they were doing. I just let them squirm in the comfort they had never believed I deserved. Finally, Rachel broke. "Look, I know things got heated," she began, folding one leg over the other like she was back in control. "But we're family. And family has moments." Mom chimed in softly. "We didn't mean what we said. We were just stressed." I sat back, arms crossed, and said the words I'd waited my whole life to say. "You told me I wasn't family. You made that very clear." Rachel waved a hand. "People say things they don't mean." "No," I said, voice calm but razor sharp. "People say things when they feel safe saying them. You said it because you believed I'd never have the power to walk away. Because you thought I needed you." They went quiet. And then I added, "But now you need me." The words landed like a dropped glass, no crash, just a sharp, undeniable shatter in the air between us. Rachel opened her mouth, probably to deny it, but nothing came out. Mom sat stiffly, lips pressed tight, fingers clenched around her purse like she could squeeze the truth back into hiding. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. That wasn't what this was about. I just let them sit in it. Then, casually, I leaned forward and asked, "So, what do you need?" Rachel glanced at Mom. Mom looked at me. "Well," Rachel started, feigning a laugh. "It's not need exactly, more like, opportunities. We heard about the company's sale. It's so great. Really. And we were thinking maybe there's room for us to be involved somehow?" "Involved?" I asked. "You always said you wanted to give back," Mom said, recovering some of her tone. "To help the people who were there for you." I tilted my head. "Like who?" Silence. Rachel's face hardened slightly, her mask slipping. "You're really going to make us beg, huh?" I shrugged. "You're the one who said I wasn't family." And Mom agreed. "So explain to me, why should I help people who disown me in front of the entire family over a disagreement about stolen identity?" "That's not fair," Mom said. "You're twisting what happened." "No," I replied, voice low and steady. "What's unfair is being loyal to people who only love you when they think you're useful." I stood. "Come with me." They followed, reluctantly. I led them down the hallway into my office. On the wall was a single framed email, my official acquisition notice. 8 figures. Signed and dated. Rachel stopped. "Read it." She let out a quiet breath. "You really sold it for that much?" "Yes." She blinked rapidly, trying to regain her composure. "Then, what do you want from us?" I met her eyes. "I wanted you to see what it looks like when the person you cast out stops playing small. I wanted you to feel what I felt the moment you said I didn't belong." Mom looked down. Rachel bit her lip. "I let you in here today," I said, "so you could understand this. The door opens when I say so. And just as easily it closes." The air in the room was heavy, like something sacred had been cracked open. Rachel looked like she'd swallowed a stone. Mom's eyes darted from the framed email to the floor, as if pretending it wasn't there would change the math. I turned toward the wall of glass behind my desk. "You know what kept me sane all those years?" I said. "While you two played house and I sat there, forgotten? It wasn't hope. It wasn't spite. It was knowing that someday, I wouldn't need any of you." They didn't respond. So I kept going. "You said I wasn't family?" You laughed as I walked out. "And now what? You want access to my life? My money? My name?" Rachel finally found her voice, trembling and bitter. "We made mistakes, okay? We were upset, Mom didn't mean it, and I just lost it." I turned and looked her straight in the eye. "You didn't lose it. You planned it. You'd been pushing me out for years. Gaslighting me, cutting me out of vacations, mocking my career. You thought if you could get rid of me, you'd own the spotlight." Her eyes flared. "You don't understand." "No, Rachel. You don't. You've never had to work for anything. You always had Mom covering for you. Always had someone else paying for your mess." Mom stepped in again, gently, like I was a child to be soothed. "We were scared, honey. The family's had hard times lately. I lost some of my retirement in bad investments. Your father's been..." "My father," I interrupted, "stopped existing the moment he looked at his phone while you both voted me out." The silence stretched. I walked over to the desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a checkbook. Their eyes lit up instantly. But I didn't write a check. I tore one out, blank, and set it in front of them. "I want you both to sit here and tell me, out loud, exactly what I am to you. And be honest. Not family, not beloved son or baby brother. Tell me what I was." Mom paled. Rachel crossed her arms. "This is humiliating," she hissed. "Exactly," I said. They didn't speak. I left the blank check there and walked out of the room. "Take your time," I said. "If you want my help, you'll earn it." I stood just outside the door, far enough not to see their faces, close enough to hear their words. I wanted them to think about it, to sit with the discomfort of finally having to define me, not as an extension of their needs, but as a person. For once, I wanted the truth. Rachel spoke first. "This is ridiculous. He's trying to humiliate us. He's hurt, Mom whispered. Can you blame him? Oh, now you care? Rachel shot back. Where was this empathy when we told him to leave? You didn't even flinch. I heard a chair creak. I don't know what I was thinking, Mom said quietly. I thought it was just temporary. That he'd cool off and come back. Because he always came back. Rachel muttered. There it was. Mom sighed. I knew he'd be successful. I guess I just assumed he'd still need us. That we'd always have that control. There it was again. I walked back in. Rachel's eyes flicked to mine, defensive, guarded. Mom looked like she'd aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. So, I said calmly, what did you come up with? Rachel stood abruptly. You want the truth? Fine. You were the fallback. The one who never caused trouble, never made noise, never asked for anything. You were easy to ignore. Mom closed her eyes. And I let it happen, she said. Because it was easier than admitting that I favored the child who needed me less. I didn't move. Thank you, I said quietly. That's more honesty than I've gotten in 30 years. Rachel glanced at the blank check still sitting on the desk. So what now? You going to write us a pity check to go away? I picked it up, folded it neatly, and tucked it into my pocket. No, I said. I'm going to write a donation to a shelter that actually helps people who lost everything because of the people who were supposed to protect them. They stared. You think this is about money? I said, shaking my head. It never was. This was about you realizing what it feels like to be powerless. Rachel's face reddened. You think you've won something? No, I replied, voice steady. I've just stopped losing. Rachel's composure finally cracked. You're being cruel, she said, voice rising. This isn't like you. That part made me laugh, not loudly, just a breath, dry and bitter. You don't know what like me even means. You only know the version of me that stayed quiet so you could hear yourself louder. Mom stood slowly. You don't mean this. We're your family. No, I said, looking her dead in the eye. You were the people I happened to share a roof with. I watched the weight of that sentence land. Her face crumbled, just a little. You threw me out over a credit report and a bruised ego. I continued. And now that I have something you want, suddenly we're blood again? Rachel stepped forward. What happened to forgiveness? I didn't flinch. Forgiveness is earned. You haven't even apologized. I just did, she snapped. No, I said. You explained. That's different. The mask was off now. No fake smiles. No tears. Just the kind of stunned anger either of them knew how to process. You're not going to help us at all? Mom asked, voice thin, trembling. After everything we've been through? What you've been through? I said slowly. You abandoned your son in front of guests because your daughter made a scene. You looked at me like I was a problem. Not once have either of you asked how I survived after I walked out that door. They went silent. I walked over and opened the front door. You showed up expecting the same weak version of me that used to swallow every insult, every slight. But I've changed. Rachel scoffed. Money changed you. No, I said. It gave me the freedom to stop pretending you deserved my loyalty. They didn't move. So I repeated myself. Calm, clear, final. You need to leave. Rachel didn't move at first. Her eyes narrowed, like she was still trying to figure out if this was some sort of test. Some performance of power I'd eventually walk back, like I always did when the guilt kicked in. But there was no guilt left in me. Mom clutched her purse tighter, voice trembling. You're really going to throw us out? Just like that? I didn't throw you out, I said. You walked away. You threw me out. Don't rewrite history just because it's uncomfortable now. Rachel's tone turned venomous. You think this makes you better than us? You think this house, this money, means you've won something? No, I replied, still holding the door open. I think this silence, this peace I wake up to every morning, that's the real win. And the fact that it doesn't include either of you? That's not revenge. That's freedom. She crossed her arms. You're going to regret this. I smiled, just barely. That's what you said the day I left. You remember? You smirked and said, good luck surviving without us. And now look at you, on my doorstep. Her cheeks flushed. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Whether they were real or another layer in the long con of maternal guilt, I didn't care anymore. I'd spent years analyzing her moods, trying to anticipate whether I'd be met with warmth or frost. I used to think it was love. It wasn't. It was a test I never signed up for. I loved you, Mom whispered. I still do. No, I said, voice steady. You loved the version of me that stayed small enough not to threaten Rachel. The version who played the background so she could take center stage. I let that version die the night I walked out. They didn't speak. So I gave them a final kindness, honesty. You came here hoping I'd fold. That I'd feel guilty. That I'd still be the scared little kid desperate to be included. But I'm not. I'm the man you never thought I'd become, because you never wanted me to become anything. Mom stepped forward, like she was going to plead. Rachel reached for her sunglasses again, probably to hide whatever was flickering behind her eyes, shame maybe. Or anger that I didn't break. I didn't wait to find out. I stepped aside, held the door wider and said, this time, I'll watch you walk out. They did. Not a word. Not a glance back. Just the sound of heels and regret echoing down the stone path. The door clicked shut behind them. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel alone. I felt whole. After the door closed, I didn't collapse. I didn't cry. I didn't second-guess myself like I used to after every confrontation with them growing up. I just stood there, still, quiet, breathing in a space that finally belonged to me. Not just the house. The moment. I made tea. Sat on the terrace. Watched the wind ripple through the trees. The silence was heavy, but not lonely. It felt earned. Like standing at the summit of a mountain no one ever thought I'd climb. I used to imagine a version of that day differently, me giving a speech, Rachel breaking down, Mom begging for forgiveness and meaning it. But reality wasn't cinematic. It was cleaner. Sharper. There were no grand apologies. Just absence. And truth. In the weeks that followed, I heard from mutual contacts that Rachel had gone on another tirade, telling everyone I'd turned into some cold, greedy stranger. Mom tried to play the victim card. He's changed so much. I don't recognize him anymore. They weren't wrong. I had changed. And no, they didn't recognize me anymore, because for the first time, I wasn't performing. I wasn't begging to be loved by people who only knew how to take. I started funding programs for kids with no support systems, quiet grants, no press. I hired a therapist. Got a dog. Rebuilt my life around honesty, boundaries, and peace. It wasn't glamorous. But it was real. People ask me sometimes if I'll ever reconcile with them. Here's what I say. Forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting. And family? Family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by who shows up when there's nothing to gain. So if you're out there, listening to this, if you've ever been made to feel like you don't belong, like your worth is conditional, like love has a price tag, you don't owe those people your silence. Or your success. Or your second chance. Sometimes walking away isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of finally living. And as for them? They're the ones watching the house lights dim, standing in the cold, wondering why the door never opened again. Because it won't. Not this time. Not ever again.